way of getting a couple of good reviews that might perk up a readership is almost impossible right now because no one's reviewing books in the first place. So I think, it was a similar situation. It was, in my case, not my agent, but my publicist at Palgrave who said, could you get one of those blog things going? And, and in a way, and I think you alluded to this, it's a way of showing the marketing division, some of you may be publishers, I don't know, but the marketing department, that you will help them if they help you. And you really going in, unless your name is Philip Roth or Barack Obama, going in to publish a book, having a contract and the advance and that whole part of the business, that's just a fraction of the job, even delivering the book, because once the book is published, you have to, in most cases, at most publishing houses, convince the marketing team, who are, I don't even want to reveal what their salaries probably are, that they should get behind your book. And one of the only ways to do that is to convince them that as the author of the book, you will participate. Whether it's, both fantastic performances, by the way, performing for an audience, so giving them some entertainment, or blogging, going on Facebook, doing something that shows the marketing team that, hey, this person is going to participate, so maybe we can do something to help market the book. Because a vast majority of books published in this country just disappear very, very quickly. In fact, if you go down to the Strand bookstore, which is still around here in New York City, and look through the bins, it's really quite heartbreaking. It's this beautifully bound hardcover edition of a first novel or a second novel, professional author's photograph, 6 blurbs on the back from, Mick Jagger, Madonna, John Updike when he's still around. And you've never heard of the book.
No.
And it didn't get reviewed, and very few people are even aware of it, let alone purchased it. So I think in a way it's a question of participation, that you're willing to participate in marketing the book somehow.
Yeah, no, it's funny that I have the exact same story. I was terrified of it and was pushed into it, and James, like you, had a very pleasant surprise that A, I enjoyed it, and B, I was getting feedback that I never would have, sort of the comments, that kind of interaction with readers. And on top of that, I was encouraged to, because of this rhyming thing, to do shorter, little, maybe a collection of short things, short poems for kids. And what I'm doing now is kind of what is tantamount to an audio blog, where on a very semi-regular basis, I'm putting up new little rhymes for kids, and the idea being that at some point, when I get more than 10 hits a day on my blog, I build a audience for a series of rhymes that I've written, and then that's something that my agent can go to. Hey, look literally at this feedback on the blog. You can see people, hey, I like this rhyme you wrote, and there's a built-in audience. So the blogging can do that. And also, I'm also going to be starting like a collaborative novel with a friend of mine in London via a blog. Probably in the next couple of months, where we will be doing it like
serialization.
It's by bringing up Dickens or like Dumas, doing that kind of writing, using the blog as that. And it's not new. Other people are doing it, but although it tends to be real, tends to be a lot of fan fiction.
Primarily.
Yes. But it does. It's not. There's definitely precedent for that out there. So, and then the idea being, you reach an audience, you use the medium to reach an audience, build an audience, and then that's something that your agent can go to a publisher and say, hey, people are already reading this.
Right.
Let's turn it into a book.
One final thing occurs to me about that. It just provides a context for a happy accident. I wrote some blog posts in which I mentioned Neil Gaiman randomly, and the well-known fantasy writer with a large online following. And he mentioned me. I don't know how he found out that I had mentioned him on his blog. It's like 8,000 people came to my blog at once and like broke the server. And like I watched the sales start to go up, and I was like, wow, like just. But you have to provide that context for a happy accident to happen.
Right, exactly. Yes. How many of you join Facebook just for publicity purposes primarily?
No, I mean at this point it's like it's overtaken my life.
You too?
Yeah, I mean, the same publicist asked me if I would consider opening. I didn't know what I was getting into.
Right.
Now, it's extraordinary. I mean, it's a this is your life kind of thing in virtual time. I mean, so many people from my past.
Yeah. I was forced to join Facebook for the same reason as you three, and I'm amazed at how much time it takes.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that we all sound really old here? I was forced to watch TV. I was very interested. Movie pictures can tell stories. Now,
I was curious. I'm older than you three. I was curious if you happily joined Facebook, which is a byproduct. But it sounds like you're all like pushed into it.
I had a Facebook. I was on Facebook before.
Okay.
But I agree that it became like now because I put a severe limit on Facebook stuff, but it has become a very valuable marketing tool.
It is.
That I can.
Absolutely
These are all his suddenly 300 people who have kind of a vested interest in me because they're old friends.
Oh, only 300?
Oh, the shame of it all.
It's true. You can actually say only 300, can't you? It actually is true. So I mean, but those are all people who I probably would never speak to because they're primary school friends who would never even know that I had a book. But now I can say, hey, I'm going to be at a bookstore.
Right.
And maybe some of them will come out.
Sure. Roland mentioned the critics and how it's so much harder to get a review. And actually, and also across the nation, newspapers themselves are folding, but the print and print newspapers and magazines, they're actually the number of culture critics are being slowly wiped out. It started, and actually, frankly, I think the books went first. They had the film, but they sort of left I work in performing arts. A lot of theater critics are just being let go. But the books I used to work at Newsweek magazine, and you could look at the coverage of books. That went first.
Yeah.
It did. It went first, and then then actually sort of theater, then sort of books and music or movies, and are left a little bit. But so but you all have good reviews because I've seen some of them. They're the publishing standards, with Booklist and what's the basic Bible of the industry?
Publishers Weekly.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the papers, Village Voice.
Right.
What's the Boston Globe? Some of the city papers.
Right.
Right. I think. I mean, the it's interesting that you mentioned this blog experience where you had thousands of people going to your page all of a sudden for the mention because it is true that part of the power of having an internet presence is getting your book written about on a blog that happens to be very popular, even if it's not your own.
Right.
Somebody out there has a number of followers and they're all interested in a similar topic and they're commenting on this blog largely because they trust it or they find it valuable or a great source, and that person happens to write about your book. Suddenly, the surge in sales can far outpace a review in the papers.
Right, they have the following.
Yeah, and people also there's the impulse buy online. If you read a review in a newspaper, having a cup of coffee, a piece of toast, you take the dogs out, and you might have it in the back of your head, but you're not at a bookstore. You're not going to immediately grab it. Whereas online, it's a click. If you see somebody's really enthusiastic about a certain book, and you can click on and order it from one of those big sites. It's much more immediate. So.
But the other aspect of the internet is that anyone with a blog can review your book and might trash you.
Yeah.
Have you read bad reviews of yourself on the internet?
Yeah.